There we go. All right, we're here. Oh, we're seconds away. I think we got it now. All right, hold on. Look, you just saw live tech fixing right here, folks. Hold on a second. Let me put on the headphones. See if we can get this done correctly. This would not, again, this is not, let's just get right to it. Let's go. Folks, the one and only Tom Dreesen. Look, there he is. There he is. We got it figured out. It's just stupid. It's the new world order. It's all this new technology. This is the COVID, man. This is all because of COVID. We're all on phones now and computers, and we're doing stuff that I don't even understand. How are you, Tom?
Boot camp wasn't this hard. And I ran 3 marathons, and I wasn't as exhausted as I am from trying to get on this show.
I know. This is all right. Well, you know what? Let's do this. I want to give you a proper intro. Let's see if we can do this the right way. So give me 1 second. I'm going to give you a proper intro. Don't move. Stay right where you're at.
I am moving.
Perfect. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my guest on the show today, he has been on over 60 Tonight shows, 500 television appearances. He is a stand-up comic. As a comedian, I love to have comedians on here, and I have tremendous respect for those that came before me and paved the way. And this is easily one of those gentlemen, someone I have tremendous respect for. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Tom Dreesen. Here he is. There he is again, Tom Dreesen. Yeah.
I'm hearing the applause, Lenny.
That's me. There you go. I applaud. It's virtual applause. That's what we do here, man. How are you, Mr. Dreesen? Thank you for being on my show, first of all. Sorry about the glitches up front.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's been I've been, like most comedians, I've been locked down for 5 months, but because I have this book out, I'm doing, I'm supposed to be on a book tour right now. I'm supposed to be in Chicago right now doing a book tour. Because of this COVID thing, I'm home doing broadcasts like yours, the Zooms and Skypes and radio phoners. And I'm busier than I've ever been in my life. But it's amazing, this technology, this social media. You can reach more people from your home than you could on tour.
Yeah.
It's just.
Well, I guess that's true, man. Yeah, but this is also it's the only option you have. You know what I mean? If you want to stay out there, you want to stay relevant, you got to be on doing something somewhere on social media. I've had to learn more platforms in the last few weeks. My head hurts. I don't want to do this stuff. I just want to tell jokes.
I'm with you. I was just talking to another entertainer. Oh, he's not a comedian; he's a singer. And I don't want to name drop because he's a big name singer, but his first name is Smokey. But anyhow, he was saying, I just hung up on him because he wants to play golf. But I said, "Are you singing every day?" He said, "Well, I sing every day anyhow." I said, "No, I mean, are you like rehearsing?" Because comedians, what do? We're going to talk to a mirror, but a singer can sing.
Yeah.
So he said, yes. He said every day he sings a few songs because he's getting ready to, when this thing ends,
How, this has got to be, in your long career, this might be the longest time you've gone without performing yourself, right? Don't you think?
No question about it. I've never went over 5 months without performing.
No, it's like half a year almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
It'll be interesting when we first go back. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, to try. Yeah, I know it's gonna be definitely it's gonna throw things off, man. So the book, I bought the book. I didn't get it in time because I ordered the hard copy. I want a hard copy, man. So I got the hard copy coming, but I read some excerpts. The foreword from Letterman was hilarious, by the way, which I thought was fantastic. And all of it was funny, but the line he wrote in there that you wrote, the first line is the best. You might not be his oldest friend, but you're his best friend. Is that correct? Did I read that correct?
That's a nice remark on his part. Yeah, we've been friends for over 45 years. Yeah. I got to tell you a funny story, Lenny. He calls me about a month and a half ago. He said, "Tom, every time I do an interview or you do an interview, we always say the same thing about how we met." And I said, yeah. He said, "We always tell the same story. You were on stage at the Comedy Store. I was my first day out in LA. I went to the Comedy Store and I saw you perform. And I waited outside. When you came off stage, I complimented you, and we've been friends ever since." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, it's boring." I said, "But it's the truth." He said, "I don't care. It's a boring story." He said, "From now on, we tell everybody that you were on stage. You came off stage. I was in the parking lot, and I had stolen some material from you, and you beat the shit out of me in the parking lot." I said, "Well, why do I want to say that?" He said, "Because it's a better story." I said, "But Dave, you got 32 million fans. I don't want to be chased through airports everywhere I go." He said, "But it's a better story." Now, I said, "Well, it's stupid." 2 weeks go by. He calls me and he said, "Do you know the governor of Illinois?" And I said, "I met him, but I don't know him." Well, Dave's wife had a a woman, a friend of hers, whose son was autistic, a grown man. But in Illinois, the autistic grown-ups they had some land and they were growing produce, corn and beans and stuff. And when it came into fruition, they were giving it to the homeless. And the state is supposed to come and take that property away. And I want to talk to the governor. I said, gee, I tell you what, I know the Senate Majority Leader, a guy named John Cullerton, and he's the one who helps, with legislation. I'll call him. And so I called him and he said, oh, sure, Tom, I know all about what Dave's talking about. And we're taking care of that. He has nothing to worry about. And he started explaining me the legalities. I said, would you do me a favor? If I gave Dave your number, would you take his call? He said, oh, of course. You want to talk to David Letterman, And I said, do me a favor, John, before I hung up. I said, John, when you do this for Dave, when you do this favor, say the only reason you're helping him is because Dreesen beat the shit out of you in the parking lot at the comedy store. He said, okay, he's a game guy. He didn't know what I was talking about. 10 minutes go by, my phone rings. I go, hello, and it's Letterman. Hello. He said, didn't I tell you that's a better story? I told you that's a better story.
It is a better story, actually. That's a much better story. So I read some of the books. First of all, I've met you a couple of times. I'm also from Chicago. I'm a huge fan. I'm glad you're on the show. Thanks for being here. I didn't know you're from Harvey, which is pretty cool, which is way down on the south side. I was from Bridgeport. I did some time in Bridgeport, but you're farther south than Harvey.
Oh yeah. I know that your area, Bridgeport. Yeah. Harvey was, I always joke, it's 147 south. And it was
a tough area, bro.
It was rated #1 for crime in the United States for a community of its size. And I went on the Tonight Show one night and I said, Harvey's rated #1 in the United States for crime for a community of its size. But the people are feeling real good because they had been #2 for so long.
That's good. Well, you're moving up. That's good. You get proud about being #1. That's good. So I read you started, and then of course you were working with Tim Reid earlier on, the Tom and Tim, the duo, and that was pretty impressive. How that was started in '69? Did I read that correct?
Yeah, it was Tim and Tom. We want to give Tim Tom Building there. It's Tim and Tom.
My bad.
But what happened was I had no idea I'd ever be in show business. I didn't think about show business. I never thought ever about being in the business. I came out of the service. I had a wife and 3 kids, and I'm struggling and going from job to job, and just wandering aimlessly. But every job I had, I did good at, but I wasn't fulfilled. I kept that empty feeling like, damn it, I should be doing something else, but I didn't know what. And I'd be sitting in bars with my buddies on weekends. Sometimes it'd be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's pounding them beers down. And I'd say to myself, what the hell am I doing here? But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I honestly, Lenny, started to pray. I would pray. I said, God, what is it that I could do? Because this can't be it. And anyhow, I ended up joining a civic group called the JCs, the Junior Chamber of Commerce in those days. It was young men of action, men from 18 to 36 in the community, that they would attack problems in the community and try to right the problems of the community by working on committees. They taught you how to serve on a committee, how to chair a committee, how to form subcommittees, how to hold meetings, Robert's Rules of Order, and learning all these leadership training programs while helping the community be a better place to live. In doing so, I realized one of the big problems in our community was drugs, that the kids were using drugs as they are today. But they weren't teaching drug education at a college level or a high school level, let alone at an elementary school level where it should be done. So I wrote this drug education program, teaching kids how to about the ills of drug use, but by playing music and getting the kids laughing. The night I proposed this project to the JCs, to run it as a JC project, a young black guy joined it. Tim Reid joined the chapter that night. And he said to me, after I made the proposal, he walked up, he said, gee, I'd like to work with you on that project. And I said, I already got a guy. As fate would have it, I had a white friend that was going to help me. But as fate would have it, my friend called me the next day and said, Tom, I can't do the thing with you. I got a new job. I said, geez, what was that black guy's name? Oh, yeah, Tim Reid. Well, I called him up. He agreed to do it. We started working on the program, rehearsing it. And when I walked into that classroom, I realized what a blessing it was, because the children were black and white. So the moment we hit them, they lit up to us. We were 2 young guys, and we started playing off of one another, playing records, getting each other laughing, getting the kids laughing. The program became #1 in 50 states and in 22 foreign countries. JCs use it as a model program through their publications on how to teach drug education at an elementary school level. One day, leaving the classroom, a little 8th grade girl stopped by Tim and I, and she said, you guys are funny. You ought to become a comedy team. And the thought of a black-white comedy team intrigued us. No one had ever done that before. So we started writing what we thought was material. Now, there were no comedy clubs in those days, Lenny. So, we finally went up in a jazz club one night and asked the owner, could we get up after the jazz group takes a break? Anyhow, what happened, something I had written that first night we went on stage, something I had written got a laugh. And it was like one of those B movies where the dark clouds open up and the sun bursts through. My whole being went, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is what I want to do. Oh, now I found it. This is what I want. Oh, I couldn't sleep that. It was a Friday night. I couldn't sleep that whole night. I got up in the morning and I went to church where I was an altar boy when I was a kid and where I used to sing in the choir. And no one was in the church. It wasn't a service. I actually got on my knees and I said, God, I now know what I want to do. I want to be a comedian. The thought that you could make a living making people laugh overwhelmed me. And I prayed. I said, gee, if you let me make my living as a comedian, God, I'll do charities. I'm making all these promises. You know, I said, now 50 years ago, that was in September 1969. That's when that happened. I went back to my church, September 2019, on the 50th anniversary, and I gave a sermon on the power of prayer. To the audience, I said, I sat right over there. I knelt right over there when no one was here. And what I asked for all came true. Everything I prayed for came true. So I gave this sermon on the power of prayer. And I don't want to bore you with all that, but.
No, that was powerful. That's going to be a huge sermon. That's very, and it's so cool to be able to go back 50 years later to the same place. It's a very right place, right time thing too, man. You know what I mean? And the fact that the little girl came up and said something to you, I love the fact that as a little 8th grade girl that says you should be a comedy team, and then cut to 50 years later. You know what I mean? It's like a weird, it's just a weird aura type thing. That's perfect.
And she was in the church that day. Her name is Vicky Sarufka. She was in the church.
Do you remember do you remember everyone?
I got to tell you something, Lenny. I got a photographic memory.
Yeah, you're like a rock, man.
That's one of the things Frank Sinatra used to say about me. He said, Tommy can recall a situation with the most minute detail of or where we've been. But I've always been a storyteller, so my mind captures things like that.
Right. Well, that's good. Well, now I got to cut to you. I know I read you opened for Sammy for years before you started working with Frank, or you started opening for Frank. How was it to become that you started working with Frank, that you started opening for Frank Tom? I want to tell you this. This is really important to me. I have an 18-year-old daughter who is a enormous Frank Sinatra fan. At 18, she listens to him during Christmas time. That's all we have playing in this house is Frank Sinatra. So they want to come out and say hi to you before the show is over because they told them you were going to be on the show. So, but
I got to tell you, that doesn't surprise me, Lenny. I do a one-man show around the country called An Evening of Laughter and Memories of Sinatra. It's a 90-minute show. Sometimes I call it The Man Who Made Sinatra Laugh, but it's stand-up comedy. I come out and do stand-up comedy. Right. The theater goes dark, a film comes on, the screen comes on, and there's a 3.5-minute film of my life that Dennis Farina, God rest his soul, narrates. I come out and I do stand-up comedy. About 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I go to a bar, and there's a bottle of Jack Daniels on the bar, and I start telling stories like the audience is in a bar with me. And I'm not surprised about your daughter because everywhere I go, young kids come up to me afterward, 18 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old. I got to tell you, can I swear on this?
Go ahead.
I just want to tell you what actually happened. Not that I swear a lot, but a while back, a guy from a hip hop station wanted to interview me, and I told my manager, no, it's probably one of those trap things where you go there and they, But anyhow, he said, no, the guy keeps calling. I would come out of the Laugh Factory when I was trying some new material, and this guy's there waiting for me. He said, man, I want you on the show. He's a Mexican kid. Man, I want you on the show, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, I went to do a show at 7:30 in the morning. It's a hip-hop station.
Yeah.
He talks to me about Frank Sinatra. At commercial break, the phone's lit up. 18 years old, 19 years old, 21 years old, 17 years old, Sinatra fans. When we go to commercial break, I said to the guy, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. That this is a hip-hop station, that these people are calling about Frank. He said, oh, man, you don't get it. He was a fucking outlaw, man. He was a fucking outlaw. He said, he did it his way, man. Don't you get it? I said, well, okay. But a singer of love songs is a singer of love songs, and that's what your daughter picks up on. Is your daughter a singer by any chance?
No, she's not a singer at all. She's a performer. She writes and goes to film school and stuff like that. So she's got a really good ear for music. I'll give her that. And one of the things that's significant, I think, about that she might embrace, something I embrace when I watch when I watched those old clips of Frank and Dean and all of those tours, those shows, that was a day when people they enjoyed performing, and they brought it and they performed. They didn't have disdain for the audience. You know what I mean? You see that a lot now where artists are annoyed, or they're mad they have to do a show, or they just have some sort of attitude. And back, it didn't seem like Frank and Dean and anybody had that. They enjoyed being there. They liked performing, and the room felt that.
And that's what they taught me. And even though I knew a lot of those things, when I met Frank, I had already done about 30 Tonight shows. I toured with Sammy, with Smokey Robinson, with Natalie Cole, with Gladys Knight and the Pips, Mac Davis, Tony Orlando and Don. I paid a lot of dues before I ever met Frank. But one thing that I noticed about it, especially Sammy, and I tell young comedians this all the time, it's have fun and the audience has fun.
Right, right.
Have fun. I don't care what's going on in your life. You're going through a divorce, you're going through problems, there's a death in your family. But when you walk out on that stage, if you're not prepared to have fun, don't go there. Have fun, and the audience has fun. There's a lot of things I can teach young comedians. I would say conversation, not a presentation. Mm-hmm. Is it your act? You damn right it's your act. But it's your job to make it look like it's not an act. It's like your wife says, Lenny, we got 20 people in the living room, and dinner's not going to be ready for 20 minutes. Do me a favor, Lenny, go out in the living room and start telling them about your childhood and how you grew up. Tell them funny stories. And you walk on stage every night like you're walking into your living room. This is our house. It's not their house. If they could do what we do, they'd be up on stage. They can't do what we do. That's why they're in the audience. So when I walk out there, I'm having fun, and I'm going to have a lot of fun. I came there to have fun, and I want the audience to have fun with me. And Frank, Sammy, and Dean exemplified that. Yeah. They had more fun on stage,
Yeah, those Rat Pack shows, to this day, I love watching all of them because they're in the moment. One of the things, like, I've been doing comedy, I'm a little over 30 years I've been doing stand-up comedy, and I try to tell a similar situation like you tell them to have fun on stage. I tell people to be in the moment, to be present. When you hit the stage, let everything that, like you said, everything that's bad is off the stage. But once you put your foot on that stage, the only thing there is you, and you're just in the moment. And if you try to do that and you embrace that, then you're easy. Then you're in your element. Then you're good. And every single one of those Rat Pack shows were like that. They looked like they had so much fun when they were together as a group. Yeah. It was a blast.
And they did that. Not only did I have fun with those guys, afterwards, I worked with Dean. I did the Dean Martin roast. I did some private gigs with Dean, some corporate things. And then, of course, Frank, I toured with him 13 years, almost 14 years, till his very last performance. And Sammy, 3 years. Sammy, you could sit in the wings and go to school to watch this guy. This guy, Sammy Davis, could sing as good as anybody out there. He could dance better than anybody out there. He could do comedy as good as any comedian I ever met. He could do impressions, but in any of the impressions. He could play the piano. He could play the drums. He could play the trumpet. He was a parade, and he was wonderful.
That's a whole show. That's phenomenal. That's it had to be amazing to be able to work with that kind of talent. But one of the things what I read in the book, I didn't know this late night thing. Frank Sinatra was nocturnal, so you guys were up all night till I can't do that anymore, man. I can't stay up till 6 o'clock in the morning. That's insane.
He never went to bed till the sun came up, and that was whether we were on the road or off the road. And he wanted you to hang with him, Yeah. I don't have a degree from academia, but I got a doctorate from the streets. That's what my book is all about. The books. Is that I grew up on the streets, and I got a doctorate from the streets. And Frank Sinatra also didn't have a degree from academia. He was a street guy too.
Right.
When I first came to Hollywood here, I cannot stand the Hollywood celebrities, these namby-pamby, pampered, spoiled brats who most have never had a decent job in their life, and they're just spoiled brats. And they get 1 year on a sitcom, and then they're going to tell you about foreign affairs, how the government should conduct foreign affairs. I mean, all of a sudden they're experts on everything. They're just full of shit. Most of them are just pampered, spoiled brats. So I always gravitated to neighborhood guys. You're from Chicago.
Like a no bullshit guy.
Yeah, and so I always gravitated to those kind of guys. I used to run. We'd have once a month. We'd have in an Italian restaurant upstairs in the back, or a different place we'd go around. They had a nice little back room. It would be Joe Pesci, and I'm name dropping, but they were all neighborhood guys. Frankie Valli, Frankie Avalon, James Darren, Joe Pesci, Joe Mantegna, Gary Sinise, Dennis Farina. Yeah. They were all from neighborhoods, from South Philadelphia, from New Jersey. And we hung out because that's what we did back home in Chicago. We hang out. And so Frank was that kind of guy. He liked to hang out after the shows and sit around and talk like we used to do in the corner. It was really interesting, really interesting.
See, that's really they seem like those type of guys too. Frank seems like that type of guy, just like a no bullshit guy, just like type of guy. It's got to be hard. It's got to be hard for. It must have been hard for Frank because he also was an enormous star. It was huge. So I can understand how he would go out and tour, and then he want to stay up all night. But it's hard for. He's got to have buddies that he can hang with that he likes. You know what I mean? Because it's hard when you're famous. Meeting someone after you're famous, it's got to be difficult for him. So when he's got guys like you that he can just bullshit with, that had to be a much more comfortable situation for him and you.
Sure. I think it's more like guys that he could trust. And that whatever conversation wasn't going to go any further than you. I tell a funny story. One night I was staying at his compound down in Rancho Mirage, and he came and he got me out of my bungalow. He had this huge compound in Rancho Mirage on Frank Sinatra Drive. But this big compound, when you went in the security gate, there was a main house that he lived in. There was swimming pools, tennis courts, all that. But on the outer perimeter of the compound were bungalows called New York, New York, Strangers in the Night, Tender Trap, My Way, named after his songs. And his house guests would be, Gregory Peck and his wife Veronique. It'd be Kirk Douglas and his wife Ann. It'd be Joanne, Sidney Poitier and Joanne, his wife. It'd be Jack Lemmon and his wife Felicia, Robert Wagner, Joe St. John, Angie Dickinson, all these wonderful friends of his.
Yeah, right.
And they would have dinner and everything, but they would all go to bed. Some of them they'd go to bed like 1 or 2 in the morning, and Frank wanted to stay up. So he would tell them, get me sometimes and say, let's take a ride. So one night we're riding around the desert, and he told me something very private, something really personal. And as we were driving back toward the compound, the sun was coming up, and he said, I shouldn't have told you that. I said, well, it won't go any further than this car. He said, I know, but I shouldn't have told you that. And I said, well, it won't go any further than the car. And it's not like we're strangers, we're friends. And he said, yeah. And I looked at him, and I don't know what made me do it. I said, strangers in the night, exchanging glances. He said, oh my God, if you're going to sing that song, get in key, will you? So he goes, strangers in the night. I said, exchanging glances. He said, wandering in the night. I said, what were the now we're singing back and forth. Now when we put on the compound, he always go, he said, good night, Tommy. Slap me on the, see you tomorrow. I said, okay. Now I was going to my bungalow, and I was thinking, if I went back to Chicago to the Corner Tavern, and I told all the guys that I used to hang out with, I was riding on with Frank, and we were singing Strangers in the Night. They'd say, get out of here with that bullshit.
You liar, get out of here. That's hilarious. You fly with him on his plane and open for how many years in total did you work open for Frank Sinatra?
Almost 14 years in 45, 50 cities a year. Plus Vegas, Tahoe, Reno, Atlantic City, the casinos. Jeez, but he did a lot of the big coliseums were 20,000 seat arenas. In Hawaii one time we did 40,000 people. And that was an experience. I mean, as seasoned a veteran as I was when I met him, I never had to do this. I'll say to you, Lenny, we're going to be at the Staples Center in Chicago, say. And I say, Lenny, it's 5 minutes now before showtime. Lenny, there's 20,000 people out there in that arena, Lenny. Here's what we want you to do. Lenny, I want you to go out there and get in the center now, because they're all around you. You're in the round there. I want you to get in the center of that arena, Lenny, and there's 20,000 people. I want you to hold their attention for the next 45 minutes. Oh, one more thing, Lenny. I want you to hold their attention, but I want you to make them laugh for 45 minutes. Oh, one more thing, Lenny. I want you to make them laugh when you want them to laugh. I want you to pull the strings on the emotions of 20,000 people. No props, no tricks, no charts, no special arrangement, no lighting, no special orchestra, anything. Just you and 20,000 people. And one more thing, Lenny, one of them came to see you.
Is that right before he hit the stage? You tell me that. That's great. Yeah, that's a good little pat in the back.
Yeah, that's what Hank Catano, Frank's road manager, and Frank did that to me the first night I opened for him in the big arena, and they were cracking up.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, they were joking. It was a joke because that's the truth. It's so funny. You got 20,000 people in the arena, and all the lights go down low, and you hear whoa, and then the orchestra struck up there in the pit. Bum, ba-da-dum, ba. People went, oh. And then, hey, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Dreesen went, oh. And you got to get them. You got to get them. And I've talked to many athletes that they call it seize the moment. That you're a 137 hitter. You're going to go back to the minors. You just haven't been hitting, and somebody gets hurt, somebody else gets hurt. Now you're up with bases loaded, and you jerk one out of the park. You seize the moment, and you stay in it. Mike Schmidt told me that it happened to him, one of the baseball players. But that's my point in comedy, that there's a certain moment. That my first Tonight Show, I was one of those seize the moment, because if it doesn't happen here, it's over.
Yeah.
You know, it's over. You know, it had to happen. So you seize the moment, and no matter what's going on inside, you step up to it. You know, and that's what the book is about. Why it's called Still Standing. Obviously, I've been a stand-up comedian for 50 years, but I've been knocked down a lot in my life, and physically in the book, physically knocked down as well as, you know, literally. But that's what we are as stand-up comedians. We keep getting back up. Rejection after rejection after rejection, failure after failure. You know, it works, it doesn't work. They like you, they don't like you. Your wife wants you out of the business. You know, there's no money coming in. Your kids are hungry. You know, but you don't give up, and that's what.
Yeah, you do. That's why this is comedy is almost stand-up comedy. I want to be specific. Stand-up comedy is almost a perfect line of work for you. Just like a kid from Harvey, just some tough kid from Harvey. That's got, you know, there's a no bullshit guy that goes out there. He goes into a line of work that you constantly get knocked down and hit and punched and get back up and keep moving and keep moving. It's almost like a perfect career fit for you. That's exactly where you got to end up.
Well, you know what? I had 8 brothers and sisters. We lived in a shack. It was raggedy poor. I had holes in my shoes my whole childhood. If a window broke, you stuck a rag in it. If you had holes in your shoes, you put a piece of cardboard in it. I shined shoes in taverns. I set pins in bowling alleys. I caddied in the summertime. I sold newspapers on the corner to help feed my brothers and sisters. And I don't regret one moment of that. I say that all the time. I give motivation speeches at universities in corporate America. And when I explain that to the audience, I say, and that's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it builds character. And also when the going gets tough, the old cliche, the tough get going. You know, in the military, when I was in the service, there were times that, you know, that you want to turn and run. You want to turn and say, no, I can't do this. You know, and the same way in our business, Lenny, you know, there's times you go, what am I doing all this for? You know, but that childhood gave me that determination to not give up, never give up, you know.
Well, I'm always a big believer in everything that's happened in your past has made you who you are today. It's all part of your growing. People always say, there's always that cliche question, if you could go back in time and be, you know, in 8th grade and know what you know now, would you go back? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't actually. I kind of, whatever made me I am right now is what I went, or whatever I went through right now has made me who I am today. It's all part of it.
No, I totally agree with that.
I love the title, My Journey from Streets and Saloons to the Stage and Sinatra. That couldn't be a more perfect title, because you cover, obviously you cover growing up in Harvey. And then I love the fact you moved to L.A. and you started, obviously you've been doing this longer than me, but you started right at that mecca time, like that early 70s Comedy Store, Letterman, you know, back when I think there were still real true voices in stand-up. I mean, there's some great guys, there's obviously some great guys out there now, but some of the great voices came out in the 70s, and you started in that group at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, you know, in 1975, wherever you went in America, people say, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm a stand-up comedian. The next question out of their mouth was, oh, yeah, you ever been on Johnny Carson? If you haven't been on Johnny Carson in the eyes of America, you just weren't a comedian. You might want to be one. You might going to be one, but you weren't one now. Now, Freddie Prinze did one appearance on The Tonight Show. The next day, he got a sitcom. You know, I did one appearance on The Tonight Show. The next day, CBS signed me to a development deal. A guy named Lee Curlin was watching in New York. But prior to that, I'm struggling. I mean, the comedy team broke up. I ended up sleeping in a car out here. I left my wife and kids in Chicago. I'm hitchhiking up and down Sunset Boulevard, begging to work for free at the Comedy Store every night. You know, just struggling, you know. And when I kept pestering the Tonight Show to come and see me, it's a long story, but that first appearance on that Tonight Show, when Johnny Carson in 1972 left New York City hosting the Tonight Show and came out to the West Coast. When he came out here, that's when everybody migrated out here. You know, the Lettermans and the Lenos and the Gallaghers and the Michael Keatons and all that, Robin Williams, all the people that I used to perform with, unknowns. They were all totally unknowns at the time, because this is where it was going to happen. Sunset Boulevard was the hottest thing in the country, the Comedy Store. There was no improvisation out here. There were no other places but the Comedy Store where you could get discovered. And every night, there were talent coordinators in there. and casting people from all the shows. You know, I did one appearance on the Tonight Show, and I stopped since that day. I ended up doing 61 appearances. But after I did the Tonight Show, these were the shows that wanted you. Dinah Shore, Merv Griffin, Johnny Carson, Midnight Special, Rock Concert, Soul Train, Mike Douglas, American Bandstand, all these shows, you know, they were calling, they wanted comedians. Every night, some kid would come off the stage at the come say, I just got the Merv Griffin show. I just got the Mike Douglas show. Or they want me up in Canada. There were TV shows up in Canada that were sending their coordinators down. The buzz on that street, the excitement in that audience, you know, it was unbelievable. You know, I would work on stage every night with all these unknown comedians, David Letterman, you know, Jay Leno, Robin Williams, Gallagher, you know, Michael Keaton. Like I said, the girl waiting tables was Deborah Winger, you know. And it was just an exciting time. But there also, what the kids don't have today, and I feel sorry for them, there wasn't a path to stardom, if you want to call it that. Today, you know, you could do 20 shows on the Tonight Show, 20 appearances, and you probably still would be fairly unknown. 26 million people watched the Tonight Show in those days. 26 million people. There was no cable television. So, you know, and that in, Lenny, brings another problem. You had to work clean.
Yeah.
You were in show business. That's two words, show business. A businessman, you say, how do I get on the Tonight Show? That's where I got to go to get discovered. You watch the comedians on the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
They were doing material that could make grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and the kids laugh. Mm-hmm. You couldn't say, go to hell.
Yeah, it was way stricter back then. Yeah. The censors were way stricter back in the 70s. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you really had a tough time, you know. But anyhow, so that was the other thing was coming up with one Tonight Show is one thing. Coming up with 5 Tonight Shows is another. Coming up with 10 Tonight Shows. And Johnny wanted a new 6 minutes every time you did the show. Yeah. So there was a lot of pressure. I was constantly writing and constantly in the state of my next Tonight Show. You know?
Yeah, you're constantly rebuilding the next set. The second you finish that last one, you're immediately thinking about the next one.
On the way home.
Yeah.
The moment the show was over, on the way home, I'm thinking of my next shot.
And maybe even before, maybe you get to a point where the last, like 2 weeks before that Tonight Show, because you're already going in, you know, you got a pretty good idea what you're doing for that Tonight Show. So if you start thinking of stuff, you go, oh, this can be for the next one. And you put it like on a side note or whatever. And this can be for the next one. You know, you already have your idea what you're going to do for this Tonight Show. The more ideas you come up with, you put them on the side and you go, I'm going to work on this later for the next one. So yeah, it's like you're constantly, you're always hustling.
You know what I did, Lenny? Honest to God, after I did about 30 Tonight Shows, I'm going all around the country and everything, and I'd say, geez, I got to come up with another Tonight Show. I had carte blanche in those days where I didn't have a talent coordinator come and see me. They knew me. I knew they wanted a 5 to 6 minute tight set and then some funny stories to tell Johnny. They knew I knew that. So I would call them, and I didn't have the first joke, Lenny, the first show. And I'd say, I'm available 3 weeks from now, March 18th. Say, I just throw a date out there. They'd say, look, okay, Tommy, here you go, you're on. And now I don't have the first joke. Manic would set in. You know, necessity was the mother of invention. You know,
Are you serious?
I would take my tape recorder. Oh, shit. I'd take my tape recorder to the Comedy Store, to the Improv, to the Laugh Factory. I'd be going to all 3 places. I'd be doing every night. I'd be working, and you know, because that forced me to sit down and focus. Because, you know, and to come up with a new Tonight Show, you know.
That's hilarious. That's talk about working under a clock and a gun. You know what I mean? Like I've always operated better if I set a deadline for myself. I'll have that tape done next week or whatever. But that's like the Tonight Show. That's pretty high stakes, man. To call the Tonight Show and go, I'm ready. 3 weeks, and you're like, okay, what am I gonna do? So you did that after that's so your last 30. You were just that's a lot of pressure to put yourself under, Tom. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was, but you know, but everything became material. You know, I'd be some guy'd say, I'd say something. They'd say, you know, my wife said something funny the other day. I said, tell me, what did she say? What did she say?
What'd she do? What was it?
Yeah, everything became material. How can I make that funnier? You know.
Yeah, you're looking for material 24 hours a day. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's the greatest, man. That's very cool. Well, I can't wait to get the book, man. I ordered it now. Obviously, you probably talk about growing up in Harvey a little bit. I read some of that early on. I didn't know Lou Gehrig was from Harvey, by the way. I got that out of your book, by the way, which is very impressive.
Who came? No, Lou Boudreau?
Lou Boudreau. I'm sorry, Lou Gehrig. Lou Boudreau, because he was an announcer for the Cubs for years also. Besides being a famous baseball player, he was a color guy for the Cubs.
Hey, how terrific was Lou Boudreau? By the way, if we got time, I'll tell this story to you.
I got plenty of time, man. Go.
I'm 8 years old. I'm selling newspapers in a corner. It's in the book. I'm selling newspapers in Harvey. And that time, Harvey it was steel mills and factories, and it was a blue collar town at that time. There were like 20 factories, and everybody in town worked in the factories. There was 37 taverns. It was a little much. And anyhow, I'm selling these newspapers, and I'm hearing horns blowing, people coming from everywhere, horns blowing, and cars coming. And I said to one of the elders, "What's going on?" They said, "Tom, it's Lou Boudreau Day." I said, "Lou Boudreau?" They said, "Yeah, Tom, he's a baseball player. He was 24 years old. Well, first of all, he was a star basketball player at our high school in Harvey, but he also was a baseball player, went to University of Illinois. Cleveland Indians drafted him. At age 24, he played shortstop and managed the team. At age 24, he was managing and playing shortstop. He was the player manager. They won the pennant and the World Series. He hit 368 that year. He struck out 8 times in the whole year. He was an amazing baseball player. He came up with the Ted Williams shift. Ted Williams always said, it's a Lou shift,
Yeah.
Brilliant young guy. At age 24, think of that. He managed a major league team to a pennant in the World Series. So now the whole town's cheering. And, now I sold all my newspapers, and I ran to the corner where I used to sell papers on 155th Street in Harvey. There was the Elks Club in the post office, and Lou went into the Elks Club with his baseball player friends. They came out, and the crowd cheered, and everybody was applauding him on that corner, 155th Street. He got in the car and drove away, and the crowd followed him down to the high school football field. I was walking home, and this is the God's truth. I was a little boy, and I'm thinking, wow, somebody from Harvey is famous. Somebody from Harvey, Lou Boudreau, is famous. And I started thinking, maybe one day they'll have a parade for me. Like you're a little boy. I was 8 years old. And I'm thinking, a parade for me and all that stuff. And August 22nd, 1992, I went back to Harvey, Illinois. And that corner, 155th Street, where Lou Boudreau came out of the Elks Club, where I sold newspapers, they named that Tom Dreesen Street.
Oh.
Dreesen Street. And Lou Boudreau introduced me to the crowd.
Are you serious?
I swear to God, it's in my book.
You have a beautiful way of going full circle in your life. You know what I mean? It's like something happens, and you go on this big journey, and you go right back to where that moment happened, and then you embrace it again. That's great to have that opportunity. That's very cool.
I think that's part of what the life is about. Sometimes when I hear this song, "One Moment in Time," a girl was singing it the other day. It's a song about all they want is just one moment in time. If that moment in time, when I can be all I can be, that one moment in time. Well, that's what we entertainers, we struggle all of our life looking for that one moment, the one moment I can prove that everything that I work for is for this reason, this one moment in time, like opening for Frank, say, in a Coliseum, but also going back to where you were a raggedy poor kid and you came back full circle, It's just that's the wonderful thing about our profession, that you get an opportunity to not only meet a lot of interesting and wonderful people, to go a lot of interesting and wonderful places, but to learn a lot about life, a whole lot about life, rather than staying in the old neighborhood and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And never leaving them.
Yeah, no, you've seen a lot of the world. You know what I mean? You get to travel around the world, which actually gives you more material, too. There's more things to talk about when you're out there bouncing around.
Pythagoras said, and he was a mathematician, but Pythagoras was a philosopher. He said, life is like the Olympic Games. There are those who choose to get in the arena and go for the gold. There are others who choose to sit in the arena and watch those go for the gold. And then there are those who choose to sell trinkets to those who are watching those go for the gold.
Oh,
and you're one of those three.
You're only one of the three. That's perfect. That's beautiful.
I always wanted to be in the arena and go for the gold. My ex-wife, she didn't want to go for the gold, and she was perfectly content to sit in the arena and watch you go for the gold, and she didn't want to sell any of them damn trinkets either.
So you're supposed to have a book tour. Did you have to cancel the whole book tour, or are you postponing events, or do you know? Because COVID obviously has screwed everything up for everybody, but it's messed you up because there's no book tour. So
every gig I had canceled. Every gig I had. Yeah. But let me tell you that, again, necessity is the mother of invention. If you're a creative mind, I said, now how can I into a lemon? Obviously it's serious for a lot of people, but how I turn into a lemon? And so I got a hold of a guy, and I made a terrible mistake. A friend of mine sent me a list of 1,300 bookstores, and he said, you should contact them. I crafted an idea and sent this graphic to those stores, but what I failed to realize, on the bottom it said, you can get the book at Amazon.com. Now I'm
Ah,
telling bookstores. Well, I caught hell, but there was a guy
yeah.
in Nashua, New Hampshire, named Mike, who was a fan of mine. I didn't know him, but he sent me a nice email. He said, "Is this really Tom Dreesen?" First he was, "Are you really Tom Dreesen?" I said, "Yeah, I'm Tom." He said, "Okay, I'm a big fan of yours." He said, "You should never send bookstores. If you want to get a book, go on Amazon.com." He said, "But I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a Zoom broadcast for my store." He got a local newspaper guy to call me, and the guy interviewed me, and the guy put a feature story on me in the paper and told everybody in the community, you can get on Zoom link and watch Tom Dreesen tell stories for 1 hour about his book. And all of his customers, he's got their email and his subscribers list, right? So he's got all of plus he invited the community that brings focus to his store. If you've never been to my store, we got a special comedian, Tom Dreesen, is going to talk about his book. Well, that idea, I can now, Lenny, I'm now contacting bookstores all over the country. I can stay in my house and I don't have to go on the road from city to city to city to
You're
city.
doing a virtual book tour.
Not only that, I got book plates that I wish I would have brought them in. I can sign to you. He said, I got a customer here, Lenny. Lenny wants you to, I can sign this book plate and mail it to the bookstore owner. Yeah. And one envelope, so I don't have to write 600. I can write them all, put them all in one envelope to him. So he can say you can get an autograph book as well. So this is the way to do it. Say I was going on tour. Say I would have went to Chicago. I might have went to a bookstore and sold 100 books in one day or 50 books. Who knows? Yeah. Fly all the way to Chicago, put yourself in a hotel, food, boom, 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 ba, ba, cost. Now I can sit home and maybe sell 100 books and never leave the house. Just keep calling bookstore after bookstore.
That's brilliant. That's exactly necessity's mother of invention. That's cool. It's a whole different way of doing it now. And now you can do it. You don't even have to have pants on, Tom. You can be sitting there with no pants on. I don't know if you have pants, but you could have.
I'm
no
naked
pants
right
on.
now.
Nice. That's good. Right on. Perfect. Well, I would have it no other way.
Watch this. Shut up. Lenny's talking.
Thank you. I don't want to interrupt him. I bet he's got stories to tell. Well, that's a different show altogether.
Boy, I wish I could tell you a funny story that Pat Henry once said about Frank Sinatra, but I can't. I don't know. I don't know who listens to the show, so I don't want to offend anybody.
Well, it's on the internet always, so anybody can find it. So just keep that. I may only have like 20. I don't have many viewers, but they tune in. It's on YouTube, so you can find it. You can find this tomorrow on YouTube. It'll be up online forever, Tom, forever.
Good.
Do you have do you have stand-up dates booked later in the year or next year? What do you gotta have?
No, they all canceled.
Everything?
They all canceled with the hope that they're going to renew them, but everyone canceled. And by the way, here's a tragedy. I wish I could get a hold of the president or somebody in Congress. We need laughter now more than ever.
Yeah,
more than ever. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, here's what I tell every young comedian, and bear with me, Lenny. I know you're not a young comedian, but we've always known that laughter is psychologically a deterrent because the brain can't think of two thoughts at the same time. So if people are laughing at a comedian, they're not thinking of their problems. So laughter is a psychological deterrent. But now, because of Norman Cousins, who wrote the book Laughter Math, and he wrote another book called The Anatomy of an Illness, he had a serious heart disease. He was in a hospital. A doctor told him he was going to die. Years of stress, negative input made him have this heart condition. And he didn't have long to live. He laid in the hospital and he thought, if negative input, stress made me ill, positive input should make me well. So he checked out of the hospital. He would only watch I Love Lucy reruns, Candid Camera, Three Stooges, The Marx Brothers. He would never watch the evening news, read the evening paper. He laughed himself to health. He lived 27 years after the doctors told him he was going to die. Because of that, UCLA did research on what happens to the human body when you laugh. When you have a hearty laugh and you've laughed so hard that tears are running down your eyes and you go, oh, afterward, that sense of well-being, your body's gone through an actual chemical change, that the brain releases endorphins into the bloodstream when you're laughing. So there's a chemical change. So laughter is not only psychologically deterrent, it's physiologically therapeutic. Therefore, comedians are physicians of the soul. Dr. Schmidt, I'm being facetious, but I'm not. What I would like to say to the Congress or the president, look, these comedians are needed now more than ever, and they're not working. They're not making any money. People are better off for having our services. They laugh. Laughter. It's healing. It's not a theory anymore. It's a fact. So how important are these boys and girls, these men and women, to our society. We need to get them back to work again soon.
Yeah. No, that's great. You don't know anyone in Congress you can't call? What about, can't Letterman call that governor up and then make something happen in Illinois?
Letterman called me, to get the governor. Yeah. And,
oh, that's true. I'm sorry. I forgot the chain of hierarchy there.
off the air, I'll tell you what Letterman, I had to take a line out of his forward. He wrote this crazy forward. I didn't change one word of it, except there was one sentence I could not put in. And I'll tell you off the air.
Oh, I can't wait with that. Okay. All right. I got to see what that is. So, the virtual book tour looks like it's how many of these are you doing a day? I've been checking you out online. You got to have a lot going on, right?
Yeah, I really am. I'm busier than I've ever been. Never mistake activity for achievement, but I'm busy.
Really?
But it's fun. It's exciting, and the book. I never thought about writing this book, but I journaled everywhere I went, and I tell every comedian, journal. You don't know, years from now you might want to write a book, or if nothing else, a vanity book for your grandchildren who may never know who you were. I thought about that one time. My grandchildren know who I am, but they one day will have children, and they might say, "What was your grandpa like?" And now I got a book. You can find out what a jerk I was, and what joy I had in life. But I think that every comedian should journal. All your experiences. Because you're unique. Do you know how unique you are? I hope every stand-up comedian is listening to this. Understand how unique you are. The insurance companies of America did a survey around the world for 8 years of the 10 fears of man. Death was fourth, pain was second, getting up in front of an audience was the number one fear of mankind. Now, if you can get up in front of an audience as a house painter or a lawyer or a truck driver, and you can talk to an audience for an hour, you're in less than 1% of the population of the world. If you can get up and make people laugh for an hour, you're in less than 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the population of the world. Do you know how unique you are? That you can do what you do. Don't tarnish that. Don't use drugs and get your head all screwed up where you need a smart, a good mind to do what we do. But how important you are to the world. You laugh getters, don't take it lightly,
No, being able to make someone laugh is a beautiful gift to have, and it's a great rewarding thing to do. You know what I mean? When you do it, it's a great feeling to be able to do what you do. And since we're talking about, I wanted to bring this up. There's a clip. I wasn't able to load it and get it on the show, but someone shared. It was the clip from '92 when Ed McMahon asked you to do the show in Crenshaw, which was phenomenal. It was all huge play. It was full. It was all black audience. And the reason I bring it up is, especially this day and age, there's so much tension going on with what's going on in Black Lives Matter, and there's a lot of division in this country. And you bring up comedy and how it brings us together. And that clip is one of the best clips I've ever seen, as far as a comedian working an audience and being that everyone can come together. Do you know where I'm going with this? It's like to be able to work a black crowd and a white crowd, and we all laugh. We're all people. We all have the same physiological need to laugh and enjoy. And that show, one of the things about your act that is so beautiful is that you bring everyone together in the room, and that's one of the best performances I saw. It's a great clip.
Thank you very much. Whenever people ask me, first of all, I did an album in front of an all-black audience called That White Boy's Crazy. Richard Pryor wanted me to call it That Honky's Crazy, and I said, no black guy, because Richard had that N-Word's Crazy album,
Yeah, right,
but
right.
No black guy ever called me a honky in my whole life. They always call me White Boy. I played basketball on an all-black basketball team. I played football on an all-black football team. And the brothers always call me, they'd say, "Hey, white boy, come here, white boy." I was 12 years old when I found out my name wasn't White Boy, But even to this day, if I go back there and they're arguing about a game that was played 60 years ago, they'll say, I scored 2 touchdowns. White boy, was a white boy, come here, tell him, They still refer to me as that. But, whenever I did this album called That White Boy's Crazy years ago in the 80s in front of an all-black audience, because everywhere I went, white people would say to me, "I saw you on The Tonight Show, or I saw you on Soul Train, I saw you on American Bandstand, I saw you on the Merv Griffin Show," and you were talking about growing up with black people and playing basketball on black basketball team. And they said, "Do black people laugh at your material?" White people kept saying it. So I went and did an album, and I'd have a CD in my pocket whenever they'd say that. I'd say, "Give me $12.99 and you can find out for yourself."
Smart move.
But here's my answer to that, Lenny. Whenever somebody says stuff like that, black audiences, white audiences, I say, "What color is laughter?"
Right. Oh, that's great.
That's always been my line. What color is laughter?
Yeah.
What color is laughter? You know, it's you know, the one thing about that's trying to ruin comedy is this cancel culture, the politically correct police. They are so full of shit. Who are they? Who are these cancel culture? Do they have an office somewhere? They have a building somewhere? Because they can try to destroy your career.
Yeah.
You comedians try to destroy your career, tell you what you can say. Be careful of people that want to tell you what you can say and what you can. The next thing is tell you what you can think.
Right.
Now, Lenny Bruce years ago was put in jail because he said what he wanted to say. He paved the way. I always say to them when they say, you can't say this, you can't say that. I said, do me a favor, tell my idol Dave Chappelle that. I want you to go tell Dave Chappelle right now that he can't say this or he can't say that. And then get your ass ready to get booted, because he doesn't give a shit what you think. He's a stand-up comedian, first class and always, and you can't tell him what to say and what not to say. A while back, he said something crude about a conservative black woman named Candace Owens. And he said something crude about body functions, how her body might smell or something.
Yeah, I remember.
Now, they went to her. You remember? And they went to her.
Yeah.
Candace, and you know what she said? She said he has every right to say whatever he wants to say. That's the First Amendment. Yeah. She said, I like Dave. I'm a fan of his. Was she hurt a little bit? Maybe, but she said, but I'm not mad. He has a right to say whatever he wants to say. That's what it's all about, pal. Yeah. That's what it's all about. That's, this. I'll tell you something else that really pisses me off as long as I'm on the subject. When Tim Reed and I started out, there was a black guy in my neighborhood who was a singer on a group called the Dells. They had like 8 gold records. He lived across the street from me. I knew his name was Marvin Jr. Marvin said when Tim and I started going, we went to him for advice. We had never been on stage yet. He said, it's a great idea, but I got to tell you something. People are going to try to break you guys up. And we looked at him dumbfounded. He said, there's a game people play in America called Divide and Conquer. And they especially like to divide the races. If they can keep the races divided, they can conquer. People make money keeping us apart. So Tim and I were looking at each other. I don't know what you're talking about. But he said, they're going to come to you, Tom. You don't need that black guy. You can do this better. They're going to come to Tim. Tim, you don't need that white boy. Divide and conquer. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back to when George Floyd was murdered. And he was murdered. That cop in Minneapolis, everybody knows that guy should go to jail forever. Absolutely. Or elected. Who gives a shit? But he 100%. Was wrong.
Right.
Wrong. Guess what happened? We were united. All across America, we were united that this was an injustice.
Right.
And then we're going to have peaceful protests. Of course you can do that. I served in the military. I believe you can protest, even if I don't agree with it. You got to protest.
Sure.
That's right.
It's a right.
In 2 days, then came the rioting and the burning and the looting and and murders and burning down neighborhoods, burning down small businesses, black businesses where people work their lives, white businesses. And guess what? We weren't united anymore. Because those who didn't want us, when we were united, we can't have that. We cannot have these people united. It doesn't work for our system. And come the riots and everything. Guess what? Mission accomplished. We aren't united anymore.
Yeah.
Now, another thing. We're going to go to, what do we do as our biggest escape, Lenny? In Chicago, we're Bear fans.
Yeah.
Come Sunday,
Sports.
In Chicago, in Baltimore, in any city, Philadelphia, black, white, Jew, Gentile, Democrat, Republican, we're all united again. We're united because we can escape politics and we can go to the football field and we can root. We're united again. Well, they couldn't have that. No, we're gonna kneel for the national anthem and stand for the black anthem. Be careful of that stuff. Now you divided us again.
Yeah.
Now we're divided. Now we can't even go to football and get away from politics. I say to all them guys in Chicago Bears, and I'm a big Bear fan. If you really do believe Black Lives Matter, and I believe you do that, then after the game, don't change out of your uniforms. Keep your warrior uniforms. You're gladiators. We look to you as warriors. Leave that Chicago Bears stadium and go to the South Side where they're murdering children every single day.
Yeah.
If I gave you 5 names, I have them right here. You wouldn't know any one of those names, but it's a 7-year-old girl, a 2-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy that are being murdered. If you're really gladiators and you're really warriors and you really do believe Black Lives Matter, then you protesting in the stadium where everybody came to see you isn't heroic. Martin Luther King marched into Selma, Alabama.
Yeah.
He went in the belly of the beast, Lenny, and he went to Cicero, Illinois. And he said later he was more frightened in Cicero, Illinois than anywhere he'd ever been in his life. It was the belly of the beast. He went there. Yeah. Okay. Tim Reed and I, we went in prisons. We went wherever there's racial tension. We went there, because we we believed in what we were doing. So my point of all that, if you really believe what you're doing, go into the Valley of the Beast. I want to see all these protesters and marchers go down and say to those gangbangers, spit in their faces, you know. Anyhow, that's the end of my political speech. I'm sorry, Lenny.
No, I think you. I agree with you 100%. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I brought the show up on purpose to show how we can come together. But you're absolutely right about the dividing thing. It seems like every time we get to a point where we are united. I'm also a big believer in politicians, and a lot of people use race to divide us anyway. They keeping us divided is better for anybody in charge, because we can't get together and go, hey, those guys are fucking up. You know what I mean? They want us in different pockets is what they want. They don't want us to just
absolutely.
They don't want us communicating. That's not good for them.
By the way, and that's been a trick for years, especially if you can divide the races. You know, if you can divide, they tried to divide religions for a while, the Jews and the Catholics and then the Judeo-Christian ethic in America thrived. That's what the Constitution was written on Judeo-Christian ethics. You know, but they're going to try to keep us divided, because if they keep us divided, you know, look, I was in the military. I'm not an expert. You are never going to defeat this United States of America from outside. We got the strongest military ever assembled. Katie barred the door. If you really want to mess with us, Katie barred the door. But you can destroy us inside, and they're doing a terrific job at that, keeping us divided. You can keep us divided, keep us all that. Imagine destroying city after city, neighborhood after neighborhood, burning buildings down, robbing, looting. I mean, did you ever think that would happen in your lifetime? And then saying and justifying it. Trying to say that, but it's all because of one incident. No, that's what the First Amendment is about. We can go out and protest and say whatever we want to say, and bring people together to change laws, but not burn buildings.
Yeah, no, that's true, and I think and social media has fed into it too. Social media is another way for us all to break into different groups, and that's led into a lot of these protesting groups. That's a lot of that stuff has happened. We're dividing ourselves. That's what social media has done to us, is we divide our own. On Facebook, you can like people, block people, follow people, do all this other stuff. They've got us to a point where we're dividing ourselves now.
Yeah. And by the way, and if you think that isn't, I don't think it's sometimes all well thought out, that the people, we're like sheep sometimes. We get caught up in something and we don't look into the facts. You know, we get caught up in something and we don't look. But there are people who really know what they're doing, and they keep us divided. Is a master plan.
Yeah,
it's a
of
master
course.
plan.
No, it is. It's a genius plan. No, I agree. 100%. Tom, I don't know where to go from here, man. I'm glad. I'm sorry we had trouble getting you on early on. I'm glad that we got you on at the end. It's been an honor to have you on the show. It really has. I can't wait for the book to get here. Still Standing: My Journey from Streets and Saloons to the Stage and Sinatra. Do you have anything else you want to plug besides the book? Do you want something you want to bring up? You can find the book on Amazon. That's where I got it. Ordered a hard copy will be here in a couple of days. Tell me, is there something else you want to plug or bring up? Or
I want to tell your daughter. I want to tell your daughter why Frank Sinatra is the greatest singer that ever lived.
Hey, come here, girls. Okay. Anna too, especially Anna.
Well, wait, no, she has her acting class.
Oh, Anna's in acting class. My oldest daughter's in acting class. Yeah, come here. You're live. Come here.
Oh, well, I'm the only one that matters.
That's all right. Come here.
So.
This is my daughter, Lily. Say hello. Say hello, Lily.
Hello. It's really nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Now, she's not the Sinatra fan. Your other daughter is?
Yeah, the other daughter's a Sinatra fan. She started acting class. I'm so sorry. Oh, wait. Who's tap? Is that her?
I'm a huge Sinatra fan.
Oh, wait. Oh, she's here now. Here we go. They're both here. Hey, they're both here.
I want to explain this to you. Hi.
Okay, can you guys hear? No, I can't get the sound off the thing. All right, hold on. I can't get the sound off the thing. All right, go ahead, put this on. He's going to explain something to you.
Okay.
Now, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Why Frank Sinatra was the greatest singer of all time, the greatest pop singer of all time. And you as an actor, you're studying acting now, is that correct?
Yeah.
What people forget about Frank Sinatra was what a brilliant actor he was. He never took an acting lesson, and he was a brilliant actor. And so he won the Academy Award from Here to Eternity. He also was in a movie, The Man with the Golden Arm. He should have won the Academy Award there, The Manchurian Candidate. He was a brilliant actor. So when you gave Frank Sinatra a song, it became a script. What did the writer feel the night the writer took pen in hand? Frank Sinatra would immerse himself in the lyric and become that lonely guy in the bar whose woman left him, and he's never going to find love again. And you felt that. you felt that because he immersed himself in that lyric. What did the writer feel the night the writer took pen in hand? He was a brilliant actor and never took an acting lesson. That's why he was head and shoulders above all the other singers. Charlton Heston once said, to watch Frank Sinatra sing a 4-minute song is like watching a 4-minute movie. And you felt the pain in this, and you also felt the joy. You know, a lot of singers, they are correct in meter and all that stuff, but you don't feel it. He sang from his guts, and you feel, when you listen to Frank Sinatra sing, why you're moved by him is because you're feeling those lyrics, you know.
Right. Yeah. No, I've always loved his music. I've always admired Frank overall, just as a person, as an actor, everything. Absolutely. And I completely agree with you with everything.
Yeah, he's amazing. Steve Lawrence, who's a brilliant singer. Steve Lawrence, I was having dinner with Steve and Frank one night. Steve Lawrence stopped the meal and he looked up at Frank. He said, you know, you ruined it for all the rest of us. He said, because once they heard you sing it, they knew how it's supposed to be sung. Yeah. You know, the joy of a song or the sorrow of a song. But he immersed himself in that lyric and it's really amazing. It's amazing. I watched him for years. There was no one like him ever in pop music, none.
Absolutely no. I agree with you. I choose Frank over current music. I cannot with the current music right now.
I would recommend, if I ever had any, like Michael Bublé, I worked with Michael a couple of times. Michael Bublé is a marvelous singer, you know.
Yeah, I agree with him. His style it's similar to Frank's in a way, in
Yeah.
a certain way.
It's kind of like a modern version of like Frank Sinatra's like music, and it's kind of like, I know Seth MacFarlane does a lot of music, and I also think that's kind of like Frank Sinatra's type of like vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because, you know, the lyric is so important, and young kids today, I'll listen to them sing, and halfway through the song, I've only understood 2 or 3 words.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I honestly feel like that music it's a big part of our world, because not only is it like it's good with like the sound of it, but the lyrics, like if you really listen to a song and if you really like understand like the song, you would know the emotion, and that's like that's an amazing feeling, because any song can give you like different emotions. Like a good song can give you like a happy emotion, or even a good song can give you a sad emotion. It's whatever like the lyrics say to you, just make you feel emotional.
What you have to understand is what Frank understood. What did the writer feel the night the writer took pen in hand? You know, one time I was in a car with Frank, and he said to me, we were talking about love and about falling in love. And he had been married 4 times. He fell in love differently at different times in his life, he told me. But he said, Tom, you ever go through a bad love affair or somebody broke your heart, and you're in a car and you're listening to the radio and it starts to break your heart? You change the station. Yeah. And all of a sudden another love song comes on, and you're listening, you change the station. And then maybe another love song, and all of a sudden you're dancing. Those people wrote those songs when they feel like you're feeling right now. And he knew that more than anybody else. What did the writer feel the night the writer took pen in hand? You know, listen, and so that's the end of that long version there.
Right. You're
All right.
good.
You guys have had him.
Thank you. So nice meeting you.
It's so nice to meet you. Hope
My
to
pleasure.
See you again soon.
I hope so too.
They once again, the girls have stolen the show from me. That's exactly the way that goes. They come on and nobody cares.
I love it. I have 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters, so I know how you feel. I love them to death. So God bless you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just trying to survive. You know how it is, man. Tom, I can't thank you enough for being here, man. Once again, the book is called Still Standing: My Journey from Streets and Saloons to the Stage in Sinatra. Get it in hardcover. I highly suggest. Tom, I wish you the best with the rest of your virtual tour. Thank you for taking the time for being on the show.
Hope we work together somewhere, Lenny, down the line. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's get back out there and do a show somewhere, man. That'd be great. Take care of yourself. Everybody say goodbye to the one and only Mr. Tom Dreesen. There he goes, man. Yeah. All right. That's Tom Dreesen, guys. I think I found a pattern here on the show, which, first of all, I can't thank Tom enough for being on the show. Once again, that's Tom Dreesen. Everybody, a round of applause for those of you that are here. I think I'm finding a pattern in the show, which is it starts out horribly and then ends very well. That's the beginning has always been some sort of train wreck, And today was no exception, as I had problems with the connection, and then my sound was out, and there was all kinds of stuff. I can't thank you guys enough for being here. Thanks for staying with the show. I appreciate it big time. It's great. As always, if you enjoy the show and you want to support the show, go right there. Bam. There you go. You can go to, you can Venmo me at Lenny Schmidts. You can go to PayPal and hit Lenny Schmidts Quarantine Comedy at gmail.com. That's my PayPal. I highly suggest, if you can support the show financially, that would be great. We would appreciate it. It helps take care of some of the equipment and the stuff that we bought. Maybe I can figure out how to turn a volume tube on, or a volume button on when it's supposed to be on in time. If you can't support the show financially, or you don't want to, but you want to support it, let's say you're on the fence and you're totally sure. If you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, go to Lenny Schmidt Comedy, subscribe to my channel there. Subscriptions are just as good as cash these days in 2020. Are you aware of that? I don't know if you know that, but that's what they told me at YouTube. At least that's what they said when I called them and asked them if I were going to pay me anything for the show. So there we go. That's Tom. That's Tom Dreesen, folks. Tomorrow is Wednesday night. Let's see who we have here Wednesday night. Oh, we have another Chicago legend that's going to be here tomorrow. Larry Reeb will be here tomorrow night, folks. Tune in. I'll try to get the sound going earlier. I sense tech problems again coming tomorrow. And I guess that's it. Let's turn that off, turn this off, turn this thing off. We're good with the Venmo. That's out of here. I can't thank you guys again enough for being here. You guys are the best. Tomorrow is Larry Reeb. Later in the week is Lane Parker. We'll be here on Friday. Please watch the videos on YouTube. Please like the videos on YouTube. It's a really big deal to me. It really helps. I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, I'm sorry I'm babbling as I'm trying to queue up the correct video. Oh, it just doesn't seem like I'm doing this the right way. Nothing seems to be going well today. Folks, do me a favor. Just as always, let's take a moment. Let's just take a moment. Let's turn that off. Just dream of Pinky.
Lenny Schmidt's Quarantine Comedy is hosted and produced by, Lenny Schmidt, duh. If you enjoyed today's show, like the video on YouTube, give it a thumbs up or a way to go, or whatever the most popular social media thing these kids today are doing. It goes a long way and it really helps us out. Check the description below for info on all today's guests, as well as the host. If you're a fan, you can follow them, like them, or even support them. Go to their site or page and hit their Venmo, PayPal, buy a shirt, an album, a download. Anything you will spend will literally help save the arts. In fact, if you want to support this show, just go to Venmo at Lenny Schmidt. It will help pay for all the stuff that my dad keeps making. Lenny Schmidt's Quarantine Comedy airs on Facebook Live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Each show is recorded, then uploaded to YouTube and released as a podcast the very next day. Also at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Everything's 6 p.m. We keep it simple. That's all we can handle. Thank you for listening to my dad's show, and as always, dream of Pinky.